Now we have the chairperson of the Oceanographic Foundation, Patricia Ricard, founded by the Ricard family, who manufactures the Ricard pastis beverage.
Bonjour. Après ce qu'on vient d'entendre, on se rend compte que la mer, ça sera peut-être la...
But now we understand that the sea might be the future of man, but sea is also man's memory. I don't know if everybody was here this afternoon when we had a talk on biodiversity, but if you'll allow me, I'd like to summarize very quickly in a few words what was said this afternoon so you understand that sea is not our future. Sea is our reflection. Sea is our image. It's everywhere around us. 3.8 billion years ago, in water, something happened. Life appeared. A teeny-weeny organism, a single cell, almost nothing, almost an accident. But that was the most beautiful adventure. It took time. You know, life takes time. We're the only ones in a hurry. Very slowly, organisms became increasingly complex, species became diversified, some of them left the sea to go on land. We arrived 6 million years ago only, and if we were to place the history of life on a calendar, like the one we hang on from the fridge, the first cell was the 1st of January at midnight, and we, mankind, arrived on 31st of December, 1 year later, just before New Year's Eve. 6 million years we've had fun. We sat in front of the big table that Paul Watson told us about. We ate everything, the fishes, and although we arrived late in the adventure, there were many of us. And I'd like people to understand how quickly we took possession of the planet Earth. The first billion was reached under Napoleon, 1809. The second billion, World War, 1945. Careful, fasten your seatbelts. We're gathering speed. Fourth billion, 1968, the baby boom period. If you put fuel in a tractor, you can eat more and families will grow. 7 billion nowadays, possibly 10 in 2030, 2050. The sea is the cradle of life, but the cradle of civilizations as well. We conquered the world sailing, we fished, we fought wars on sea. Nothing has changed. We're still fishing, we're still trading, we're still conquering new land. Containers are the icon of globalization. We still fight wars. And even though wars are fought on land, there are refugees sailing across the sea to flee the conflict. And in the baby boom period in the 60s, people discovered that the sea could also be a place for leisure. It no longer belonged only to sailors and fishermen, but also to holiday goers. People started water skiing, fishing for pleasure, sailing. And you know, the little fishing session every day has more impact on the sea life than the local fishing industry. Then we started putting our wastewater in the sea, but depuration stations were invented recently. At our institute, we've shot a film a few years ago. Nadeau Vicente and Vincent Petron did a diving session, the worst possible, at the just outside the sewage in Toulon, not very far from Marseille. You have no idea what they found there. Fortunately, there is resilience. In spite of everything we see with the plastic, the sea, when we give it a chance, will restore itself. Now, back to what sea represents in our activities, because this is where it all happens. We need to adjust our activities so that we can see something beautiful in the mirror. The United Nations have assessed that $7,000 billion are the total amount of maritime activities of man on Earth. A lot of money. unfortunately and fortunately at the same time, there is something even worthier. Ecosystemic services rendered by the sea to us. The sea is a machine that makes water. If we have sweet water on Earth, it's because of the sea. This is what you learn in school when you're a kid, but then you forget about it. I read a report from a big body studying children, 800 pages of report on sweet water. Not a single time did they mention the word sea. And yet, the sea is a second lung on Earth. Thanks to plankton, the sea allows you to draw in one breath every 2 breaths. You get your drinking water from the sea, you get oxygen from the sea, and I love this picture because I'm going to tell you about something more interesting now for our life. Well, the sea really controls the climate. All exchanges between the sea and the climate are really the heart of the climatic changes. Sea will absorb CO2 carbon because plankton needs carbon to make its skeleton, and so does the coral. And it's possible to do some very good things with carbon. I mean, we're the only species that turn carbon into something bad, because normally carbon is good for life. We took the motorway the wrong way at some stage. I mean, we probably drove in the wrong direction. The sea also allows water to evaporate. And the greater the greenhouse effect, the more water evaporates into the atmosphere. And this is why today we have huge rains in some places. And the sea plays a regulating role. It also absorbs all of the residual heat. Imagine the French coast, the Norman and Britain coasts without the Gulf Stream. They would be completely different. The sea absorbs the heat, and because of the greenhouse effect, all the other surfaces will become hotter, and in the glacial areas, this is going to speed up ice melting. And the black of the sea is absorbing the heat from the solar radiations. So we are heating up the sea. This is going to change the currents. And finally, because we can talk about the sea when we talk about the climate during the COP21, we got a very interesting idea. Several of us, and when I mean several of us, I'm going to show who I'm referring to. Look at this logo. It's really pretty. You can understand the connection between the sea and the climate. Oh, shit, sorry. These are all the buddies that have recently joined the platform Ocean Climate. NGOs, research, public research institutes, private companies, research institutes like the Institut Oceanographic Paul Ricard that I represent, Havre, international laboratories, CURB, Smithsonian, all people who have something to do with the sea agree we have to do something now. The oceans must be at the heart of the decisions taken by the COP21. We need to learn to see with the sea again, to live with the sea again. This is exactly what we're doing at our institute. Our institute was created in 1966 by my grandfather, the gentleman on the left-hand side, the guy with the arm raised. He is the reason why I love the sea, because in the summer he was really a grandfather, and he took us all with my cousins sailing on a ship with some scientists. And obviously, when you've been raised that way, the sea is more tangible. It's fascinating. And the ship left Tomasol Island, and I always felt like the sea was simply, the earth was something that emerged out of the sea, but that the sea was the most important. And my grandfather taught his researchers, and Jacques Rougerie was one of them. There were researchers and architects. And he said, now we have to learn to do something better. We have to learn about the disturbances introduced by man in the sea and do something about it. The first work conducted by the Institute was to get rid of the crude oil that landed on the coast after a ship carrying oil. left it in the sea. You remember the time people would clean the crude oil from the beaches. But nature always provides a solution. It's biomimetism, 3.8 billion survival, years of survival. We're the ones who didn't take time to understand, but nature always survived. The solution lies in the problem. The solution lies in a different approach of the same problem. Researchers found bacteria that can eat up crude oil, if it's crude. Alain Bombard used to explain to me, you know, Patricia, what matters is what nature invents and man cannot undo. And if we thought about that, we wouldn't make so many mistakes. We have to give the sea an economic dimension. Right now, we're working on urchins. Urchins are very tasty. They are easy to collect, and they can sell for a high price. But there aren't enough now, so you have to go to get the urchins. You use a boat, and the population is decreasing. So we wanted to understand what it was all about. How many baby urchins can be born from an urchin female? Any idea? 2 to 3 to 5 million urchins. If you go to the most expensive restaurants in Paris, 12 urchins, 120 euros. But you can find urchins for 15, 20 euros on the markets in the south of France. Do we need to pick up the last ones, or can't we do the same as nature and breed the urchins? Aquaculture went in the wrong direction. We only breed carnivorous fishes, but we should be like nature and understand the whole cycle of life. This adventure is our science, it's today's world, and it's the world of wisdom. We have exhausted the resources of our planet, and we still have not understood the role that can be played by knowledge. There is a lot of knowledge in the ocean. In living beings, every species is a new book. It's like a library. We have to read the library, and we have to understand how the species interact with each other. And this adventure is research. So please, hear my plea. I am lucky enough to work for a company that understood this 50 years ago. And tomorrow's adventure for civilization will be scientific mecenate. Okay, we built a civilization on cultural mecenate, but now we have to do the same with science. Thank you very much.